2-hour and 3-minute full-length video. Hey, check out Houston Platt and his Dixie Twister Chevelle. While Houston was in a Chevy, Hubert was in a 427 powered Falcon. After Sunday church services, it was time for some Southern-style drag racing. Now, Hubert's first stop was a small 8-mile drag strip not far from his home. Our next stop with Hubert was at a Quasco Dragway in Maryland. Hubert had signed on for a match race with Roger Lindenwood and his Color Me Gone Dodge. Well, let's follow Pee Wee Wallace down to Roanoke, Virginia, where he was match racing Linwood Craft and his Hemi-powered Mustang. Linwood is using a Petty Enterprises Hemi in his Mustang, and as you can see, it's been stripped down to the bare bones. Check out the rise and burnout. Okay, our next stop is going to be at the Old Dominion Speedway in Manassas, Virginia, and they have drag racing every Sunday at 1 p.m. So let's check out Hubert Platt as he takes on a Yankee car. The Yankee car is none other than Bud Bobble and the Honker altered wheelbase car. And of course, Hubert pulling in with a 427 powered Falcon, the littlest or smallest Georgia Shaker, I should say. Hubert's next race was at Roanoke, Virginia, where he was booked in to run a local 427 powered Chevy 2. Unfortunately, the Falcon broke on its test pass, so Hubert had to borrow David Carmichael's 65 Comet to replace the Falcon. The Comet on the outside, a handicap start, rev them up, and they're out of there. Both cars screaming down the track. Check this drag strip out. Hubert's next stop with the Falcon is US 30 drag strip in Gary, Indiana. Now, Hubert will take on Big Steve Bovin and the California-based Blown Chevy 2, sponsored by Blair's Speed Shop. While we're here at US 30 drag strip, I thought I'd take a look at some of the exhibition vehicles that come out to the track. Now, sure, we got to see some pretty wild wheel standers here. Check it out. On the other side of the country, Atco Dragway in Atco, New Jersey, was hosting a NASCAR-sanctioned Superstock event, and George Puritan was there, capturing this action with his 8mm camera. Some of the stars of Superstock racing were there. How about Al Joniak with his AFX Mustang? And that's Bill Grumpy Jenkins backing up the Black Arrow Plymouth. Let's make a quick stop at Maryland's Mason-Dixon Dragway and check out the 3 cars that Bud Fopple brought out. Now we also see the golden-haired Phil Bonner and his Atlanta-based 65 AFX Mustang. Our next stop is National Trail Raceway, located just outside Columbus, Ohio. These next 2 cars show the extent to which some racers have gone to modify their cars in order to remain competitive in the Superstock and FX categories. Both Ed Rashansky's Marauder's 65 Comet and the Melrose Missile Plymouth have received the topless treatment. Talk about times of change. Well, here's another attraction at National Trail. It's the world's deadliest dragster. Yeah, this is the coffin body dragster that was built by Corky Corks of George Barris Customs, and it was used in the Munsters TV show and Hollywood movie. And here's a very rare shot of Dragula racing down the track at National Trail. Richmond Dragway, located just east of the city of Richmond in Sandston, Virginia, was built in 1964 by the Weiss family, and it welcomed all the big names of the Superstock and FX era to its NASCAR-sanctioned quarter-mile drag strip. On this day, Dino Don Nicholson headlined the racing program with his altered wheelbase 65 Mercury Comet. We have watched Dino's car go from its original factory condition to an altered wheelbase, fuel-injected, nitro-powered screamer during the latter part of 1965.
Now, although it might not look it at this point, this is the car that was used by Dino Don Nicholson in 1965 when he attacked those 1,320-foot asphalt tracks throughout the country. This was perhaps the most famous of the 6 original AFX factory cars that were produced by the Lincoln Mercury division back in '65. And Tom the Snake, he goes way back with the car. He gets back to when Dino first received it from the builders, the Strop Company out in California. Snake, maybe you can tell us a little bit, when was the first time you actually saw the car?
November of 1964.
November of '64. And did you pick it up at the Strop Garage, or where was it?
Oh yes, it was. All the 65 cars were built at Bill Strop and Associates in Signal Hill, right there in Long Beach, California.
The name Bill Strop and the 65 AFX Comets are often tied together in conversation. That's because the cars were assembled at Bill's shop in 1965. In 1992, I visited with Bill, and he shared his racing story with me.
Well, we're sitting here in the office of Bill Strop in Long Beach, California, and Bill has been so gracious to take us on a little tour of his office where we can see along the walls we have a lot of stories through pictures, Bill, and I wonder if you would be so kind for a couple minutes to show us around and talk about some of the accomplishments that you've achieved over the years.
Okay, I'll be happy to.
Well, let's go from NASCAR to NHRA and check out some of the cars getting teched in at the Speedway Shopping Center for the 1965 U.S. Nationals. Fred Cutler's 383 Dodge used the name Roadrunner years before Chrysler adopted it. That's Don Day's Pontiac out of Dickinson, Texas. Another one of the 65 AFX Comets is run by Fast Eddie Sharpman. Eddie has the Cleveland Mercury District Dealers as his sponsor. That's Pat Flannery, Miss Hearst Golden Shifter. They called her Perky Patty. That's Dick Max Satisfaction Chevelle. That's my buddy F.E. Bob Vermeer in his 62 406 Ford. He's checking the girls out. Now keep in mind, you are watching a promotional clip from our full-length 2-hour and 3-minute video featuring the Superstockers of the 1960s. In the full-length video, you visit 28 different drag strips and get to see hundreds of Superstockers, FXers, and more. That's Preston O'Neill in the Bill Kraft American Motors Marlin out of Norwalk, California. Powered by a 392 injected Hemi. Well, as we look at Joe Davis's double B altered blown Chevrolet Mustang called Hope 45, we can appreciate just how much things are changing here near the end of 1965. This altered wheelbase Plymouth from St. Augustine is shown in the pit area at Palm Beach Raceway in Florida. Also there was Don Gay and Tom Sturm's 427 powered Chevelle called Just for Chevy Lovers. By 1966, Hubert Platt had a stretched long-nosed Mustang, and he signed on for a match race with Dickie Harrow at Beeline Dragway in Arizona. In February of 1966, AHRA held its annual Winter Nationals at Irwindale, California, and the stars and cars were out in force. And coming at us is the Campbell and Jenkins 396-powered Chevy 2 Nova out of Los Angeles. How's this for a matchup? Gas Rhonda and Wes Ritchie, two of the West Coast's biggest super stock racers. Well, here comes Maynard Rupp with the Shalom Chevelle running out of Gratiot Auto Supply. The third annual NHRA Spring Nationals took place at Bristol International Dragway in July 1967. And once again, our Superstockers were a big part of the program. Joe Smith was at the wheel of the Center Cubs Superstock Automatic Plymouth out of Lubbock, Texas. Bill Jenkins had his L79 66 Nova entered in the A stock class. Now, Jacob was using a 350-horse 327 in the lightweight Nova, and he was beating up on the big Hemis. Well, this is Don Grother with his Super Stock B Plymouth running out of Cable Chrysler Plymouth in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. We are going back to Piedmont Dragway in North Carolina for an October 1967 match race between Ronnie Sox and Bill Grumpy Jenkins. Now, let's check out the Sox versus Jenkins match race. Jenkins had his 396-powered Superstock C Camaro in the right lane, and Sox had his Hemi Power 67 GTX in the left lane. Over at Atlanta Speed Shop Drag Strip in Covington, Georgia, they were holding their annual $10,000 race, and the Superstockers were hoping to get their share of the big bucks. Well, coming south for the race was the Bob Banning team out of Maryland with Tom Sneeden at the wheel. And we even had a 1964 T-Bolt entered in the field. With the Fairlane back on the ramp truck, it's time to head south to Cecil County Dragway in Rising Sun, Maryland for the third annual Superstock Magazine Superstock National. Dick Landy and his Superstock B Dodge will overtake and pass Harold Masalis with his Superstock D Pontiac. The top-running gas funny car of the event was Ken Boat with his single overhead cam 67 Comet. Now, I had a chance to talk with Ken about the race.
Then I get in for Mr. Super Eliminator, they call it, where they had this idea. They're going to run all the gasoline-powered cars off, which I was one of, until there was one left, and that was me. They're going to run all the fuel-powered cars off until there's one left. That was Tom Grove from West Covina, California. Kenny Boat's Comet on gas against Tommy Grove's Mustang on fuel with a handicap start. I think I got like 2.15 seconds or 2 1/4 seconds, something like that. Last race at night, it was midnight.
Fremont Drag Strip in Fremont, California held a few big races during its 30-year history, but mostly it was intended to reduce street racing within the San Francisco Bay Area. You could always find a bunch of Superstock cars at Fremont. How about the 63 Plymouth called No Mo Car? And now it's showtime with the Hearst Hemi Under Glass. Another 1969 race was the 5th annual Superstock Magazine Superstock Nationals at York US 30. York had hosted the very first Superstock Nationals back in 1965, and in 1969, York became the permanent home for the annual race. Now, like the original Superstock Nationals, the 69 event included a Superstock Eliminator, and a whole bunch of great cars were there. The one thing that changed in 1969 was the addition of a heads-up experimental Superstock class. The cars that ran that class were marked with an X, and that meant that they were running heads-up with no index and no breakout. The Shawcross brothers, Tom and Fred of Middletown, Delaware, were running a 427 Chevrolet Big Block in their 67 Nova.
66 Nova. So at the end of the season, he said, look, bring the motor.
When the rules package came out for the new Pro Stock class in 1970, it contained various stipulations. Now, while we talk about those stipulations, we're going to be showing you some of the Super Stock and Pro Stock cars that came out to York US 30 for the 1970 Super Stock Magazine Super Stock Nationals. The first requirement concerned the weight of the cars. A formula of 7 pounds per cubic inch of engine displacement was established, and it was further required that no car could weigh less than 2,700 pounds. Fiberglass body parts were allowed, but limited to fenders, hood, and deck lids. Right on the track, we see one of the few female drag racers at the race. That's Patty Young and her Superstock G Automatic Mustang. Now, let's meet Patty. Okay, we're sitting here with Patty Young. And you know, Patty, you were one of the few female drag racers who were very popular back in the 1960s and 70s running these cars. Welcome to York.
Thank you.
Welcome back to York, because you used to run here on a regular basis. In addition to the interview with Patty Young, we have included additional interviews with some of the personalities of the Superstock and FX era. Now, in our full-length video, you will hear the history of the stars and cars from the people who actually made the memories. Now, some of them are no longer with us, but their stories live on here at Beyond Video.
Fontana Raceway.
A dear friend of mine. He had built a new Mustang, and
The C9 car became a very, very famous.
Ourselves and many of the other racers got together and said, "Hey, we want to do something on a heads-up basis. We think it's."
As we watch Tim Richards on the York Return Road with his Superstock Plymouth Superbird, we will close out our look at the Superstockers of the 1960s during the years of change, 1965 through 1969. Well, that's it for our promotional video. Now, if you would like to see the